Oh god. Here we go. Welcome back. And we were just about getting pretty close. We're getting there. That's right. We got Gina's testimony out in the open. We introduced the thought that the case that Gregson was working on, which I don't think is actually confirmed, but the way he's been acting, it's all but confirmed that he's been working on the state secret stealing case. We got the Mario brothers to admit, one, that Graydon was their accomplice, and two, that he was there when Windabank got shot. It's all coming together gradually. Don't know if you can do anything about that, but... So is this newspaper headline accurate? Government communications are being intercepted? How could I possibly know? What do you mean by that? Maybe my voice has been back in line. It's been a while since I recorded this game. Any important government communications are handled by high-level officers, by specialists. General members of staff in the situation where I work would never be entrusted with sensitive information. Oh no, stop. I must say something. Stop. Oh. Let me guess. Juror number 5. You regular communication station officers aren't as lowly as you're being led to believe. A team of us are responsible for setting up and testing the telegraphs used by the ministry. Mr. Graydon is the team leader. That's fascinating. What do you have to say about that, boy? Graydon is highly skilled operator. Stop. Currently in presence of idol. Stop. So you had access to the equipment used for these confidential communications, Mr. Graydon? Well, what of it? The transmissions are always being made behind closed doors so they can't be heard. In any case, all messages are sent and ciphered. Normal employees couldn't possibly understand them. Oh no, stop. I must say something. Stop. Mr. Graydon regularly attends meetings with ministry technicians and the ministry communications team. He assists them in ensuring that there are no errors in important international communications. He's received the top prize at the cipher cracking convention 5 years in a row now. That's fascinating. Graydon is a highly skilled operator. Stop. Currently in presence of idol. Stop. Well, your idol would appreciate it if you'd keep your mouth shut. You should really pick your idols more carefully. I mean, I do really appreciate you narking on your idol like this, but... I tell you, this lawyer's accusations are completely unfounded.
Hold it!
They could be encrypted. They're not? To anyone with a brain, that would be blatantly apparent on listening to that music box for even a few seconds. Of course, of course. Surely it can't be that my learned friend is unfamiliar with Morse code. Ow, he looks genuinely shocked at my ignorance. I would be more than happy to demonstrate the basics for you, sir. A lesson? Here in court? Morse code is a continuous series of 2 distinct tones. Tones, you say? Yes, a short dot and a long dash. By combining those in different ways, you construct letters. I see. For example, this is A. This is B. When you listen to the sound produced by this music box, you only hear one tone, don't you? But it sounds so similar. The rhythm of it is the same and everything. See, yeah, I'll admit when I first heard this, I thought that it was like the gap in time between the tones that was the dot and dash. I can see what you're getting at with just, like, could just, in theory, be half of it. But there's no discernible meaning to this apparently random sequence of sounds. So your assertion is fundamentally flawed, that this is not Morse code. No! Really, you shouldn't be so surprised. What did I tell you? That music box is nothing but a worthless piece of scrap. Perhaps you might consider studying your subject matter before casting aspersions in the future. Stop. Nothing to say, but stop. Oh, it's so frustrating, isn't it? Iris? I mean, if the government's secrets were somehow being leaked using the music box, so many other things would slot into place so nicely. Could there still be something I haven't considered? Would it really be impossible to use this music box somehow to play back Morse code? Fuck it, give it a try. There's still every possibility that this music box was instrumental in the leaking of government secrets. That's the belief of the defense, at least.
Objection!
Does it please you in some way, my Nipponese friend, to repeat the same line of argument ad infinitum? It's already been established that to be Morse code, 2 tones are required. Dots and dashes. Yes, I'm well aware of that. Then what? Well, it would appear the defense has a hypothesis to put forward. You'll better present your idea at once, Counsel. How do you propose that this music box, which appears to produce only a single tone, could have been used to cipher secret messages into Morse code? Only, if you remember the end of the last video, we found this. Oh! What is it, Runo? I've just noticed something about this music box. Looks like the bottom of it opens up as well. Ah, you're right. Well, come on then, what are you waiting for? Let's open it. Alright then, here goes. Look at that, there's another movement on the underside. So does that mean you can set another disc to play back on this side? Yes, I think so. Looks like the 2 movements are linked together. They're linked. So if you had 2 discs, they'd both play back at the same time. We try presenting this?
Got it!
Good gracious, what am I looking at here? The movement on the underside of the music box. What? It appears, my lord, that the 2 movements are linked together. In other words, you can put 2 discs in this music box, and the sounds of both will play back at the same time. Good heavens! As the court has heard, Morse code comprises of 2 tones, a short dot and a long dash. With a second disc in place, this music box could be used to generate Morse code and convey a message. This is beyond a joke. I'm sorry? This poor excuse for a lawyer has absolutely no evidence to support his claims. Though, of course, if my learned friend were able to present the court with a second disc, that would be another matter. Well, I can't, at the moment. And may I remind the court that, as the witness has pointed out, he was not the one in the omnibus with McGilded 2 months ago, striking a deal over the disc, or discs. Indeed, that was Mr. Mason, the brickmaker. Exactly. I had nothing whatsoever to do with it. Though it has holes, I must admit the argument presented by the defense has much promise. I believe the cross-examination should continue. The link between Graydon and the victim of the omnibus case must be there somewhere, but I haven't found it yet. So that's the right path to proceed, but we just hit a sort of plot wall. Oh dear, it looks like you need to give your argument more strength, Runo. You'll reiterate your testimony if you please, Mr. Graydon. If I must, though I maintain exactly what I did at the start of this pointless cross-examination. I'm sorry, I'm so tired of this cross-examination, I'm yawning. Mr. Graydon is.
Hold it!
What a coincidence. This is the point we were just waffling over. So 2 months ago in that omnibus, McGill had killed the brickmaker and stole the disc. Mr. Mason was a single man with almost nothing to his name. It seems he lived in an artisan quarter some years ago, but people there remember little about him. Doesn't make much sense though, does it? How would a humble brickmaker come to acquire secret government information? How indeed. Must have been somebody else involved behind the scenes in all this. Somebody who acquired the disc and gave it to Mr. Mason. In order to take it to the meeting with McGill and negotiate a deal. Dear me. You may have it in for me, sir, but I assure you, I have far more class than that. Old brickmaker from an artisan quarter and this well-to-do communications officer. I could find some evidence to link the two of them together. If you have nothing more to add on that note, let us return to the witness testimony. Oh, these guys. Just want to see something here.
Hold it!
Just for the hell of it.
Excuse me.
Mr. Nash Sulkin, do you have something to add? Yeah, what? Something that was said just now appears to have got you thinking. Oh, well, yeah, hell, I was just thinking about me bruv, Sulky. Oh, the one you've lost touch with? Yeah, boy, could be a right nasty piece of work sometimes, that one. Always used to nab me share the grub when we had anything to eat. He does sound like a very mean man. Boy, what are you looking at me for, sunshine?
Hold it!
Like Mr. Graydon told you to, I mean. That's it, yeah. Who else, eh? Silly me thought he was just popping over for a natter after all them years. The rotter had a dodgy job for us. Eh? Eh, Ash? Hmm? Popping over for a natter after all these years. That's suspicious. Let me stop you there, Mr. Skulkin. After all them years, you say? Do you mean to tell me that Mr. Graydon is an acquaintance of yours? We're the sociable kind of baddies, you know? Sure, let's say Graydon's in old China.
Excuse me.
Something wrong, Mr. Skulkin? Yeah? No, the other Mr. Skulkin. What? Oh, me? Your brother was testifying just now. He said something that seemed to cause you to react. Oh, well, we'll just remember the old days, that's all. We used to have a right old laugh together way back when. Together? With Mr. Graydon, you mean? Yeah, with Ash. I mean, look, you look at him now and his fancy whistle and flute, you wouldn't Adam and Eve it. When he was younger, he was from the poor part of town, just like us. Is that so? But he was always the leery one. He had the brains. He had the savvy. Always coming up with smart ideas like what would never have gone through our heads. God blimey, ain't that the truth. Remember Milverton and Skulkin's milk run? That was a corker, eh? Save it until after the trial. Your menacing has no place in this courtroom. And neither does your fruit.
Oi, the geezer asked us a question, didn't he? And we was answering. Yeah, we ain't did nothing wrong.
Yeah. Nevertheless, this court is not prepared to accompany you on your trip down memory lane. Counsel, can we turn our attention back to the testimony, please? Oh no. Could that sentimental story be relevant somehow? Of course we're gonna add it. When would we not add it? My lord. Yes, counsel? The brother's last sentimental statement could hold vital information relating to this case. Very well, counsel. We'll permit the brothers to supplement their testimony with that detail. Briefly, I hasten to add.
Say no more. A Sulkins never skulking.
And what are you?
Milverton and Sulkins milk run.
Hold it!
So did you know nothing about this music box?
We didn't know nothing. We still don't know nothing. We ain't planning on knowing nothing about it neither.
But 2 nights ago, you did indeed break into Windibank's pawnbrokery, didn't you? In your original testimony, you said that the door of the shop was ajar. That it was like some kind of a sign begging you to go in. But the truth is, you were planning to break into Windibank's all along, weren't you?
We were, Gov. We were. You're right there. Cause that's what he told us to do. Was his plan.
And why was it Mr. Graydon's plan to break into Windibank's that night? Did you not ask the reason?
Well, he said that the place was full of stuff worth nicking. That's what he told us beforehand, anyway. Turned out it was a load of cobblers, didn't it? I weren't best pleased, I can tell you.
In any case, if they know the real reason, it doesn't sound like they're going to give it away. Let's press this. See where this gets us. I'm sure I'm going to regret asking, but what exactly was that? Some kind of business?
It's a little scheme we had going back when we was youngsters. Bit of fun, really. Delivering fresh milk to the locals, that's what it was all about.
Scheme? That sounds alarmingly legitimate. There must be a catch. I suppose since we're here, I should ask them to elaborate. But on what? The answer seems to be the business name. This business was just a bit of fun, you say? And it was just yourselves and Mr. Graydon involved?
Yeah, that's it.
Milverton and Sulkins milk run, was it?
Yeah, that's it.
And where did the Milverton part come from?
Oh, right. I thought a clever clogs like you had worked that one out.
That's his... Enough of this. How much longer are we expected to listen to this drivel?
Objection!
I don't... Let me guess, you don't accept anything these 2 witnesses are saying? Tell me, why is it that it was only at the mention of the name Milverton that you decided to interject? Because well...
They weren't the happiest homes that one came from. Yeah, his old man was struggling for money so much, his wife walked out on him.
He took the name Graydon then, see?
Ash would always be Milverton to us.
Milverton? So that used to be your surname, did it? Of course not. This is all bunkum. I've been a Graydon since I was born. Do you really think you can rely on the testimony of these 2 thieves, You're a communications officer attached to the civil service. As such, your personal details will have been thoroughly checked at the time of your appointment. It would be a very simple matter indeed to subpoena these records, mister. Graydon. Yep, Van Zieks is definitely suspicious. He's leaning on our side, but I'm gonna say, like, I like the way some of you in the comments put it. He's kind of in it for himself, still taking us to task with his level of grudge/prejudice against us, but at the same time, he's not buying anything Graydon's selling right now. Ugh. Well, it would appear that Mr. Sulkins' testimony has been reliable, for once. You were born Ashley Milverton, then? Is that correct? Very well. Yes. So Ashley Graydon was once Ashley Milverton. That information could change things. It could turn out to be extremely important. Ashley Graydon's personal profile has been updated in the court record. All of a sudden, we seem to be up to our necks at a serious matter of national security. But all this talk about interception of secret government messages is still just conjecture at this stage. It would explain a number of things, though, wouldn't it? The negotiation Ginny overheard on the omnibus 2 months ago, and the break-in at Winterbanks. But the trouble is, it wasn't Mr. Graydon in the omnibus with Mr. McGill did. No, that was Mr. Mason, the brickmaker, who was so horribly murdered. If only there was some link between the two men somehow. I know. Mr. Graydon's testimony seems to be as watertight as ever. What if the key to making us making headway with the cross-examination here could be those two brothers? Love them. They're quite lovely little scoundrels, I must admit. What can we make of this? Do we have... Yes, Mason Milverton. Knew that name would come up again. So we have Mason Milverton and Ashley Milverton. So...
Hold it!
Oh, okay, we're getting right back into it. However, as the defense has just demonstrated, the music box is able to play a second disc simultaneously. Well, that's a nice touch, which means there's a possibility the device could in fact have been used to produce Morse code.
Objection!
I like that. We sort of got past the first plot gate. We can go just right back down this path and pick up where we left off. My Nepalese friend forces me to repeat myself. The courtroom is no place for mere possibilities. Present the second disc of which you so speak, or your argument is dead in the water. I just can't do that at this time. And may I remind the court that, as the witness has pointed out, he was not the one in the omnibus with McGilded 2 months ago striking a deal over the disc or discs. Indeed, that was Mr. Mason, the brickmaker. Exactly. I had nothing whatsoever to do with it. So as my learned friend appears to be persisting with this line of argument, I presume the defense is able to show a connection between the brickmaker and this witness. He's got me. I have to find a decisive piece of evidence here or it's all over. Now this gets interesting. So how do we approach this? Can't present profiles. Yeah, we can't present profiles in this game, but we can present this. Mr. Ashley Milverton. Tell me, why did you try to hide your former name from the court? Because I haven't gone by that name for years. It means nothing to me. No, I don't think that's the real explanation at all. The truth is, you had a reason to hide that name. Explain yourself, please, counsel. I have here the notes for the omnibus case, my lord. As we all know, the victim, a man who we now understand to have been negotiating with Begilded. Yes, Mr. Mason, the brickmaker. That's right. Only Mason wasn't his surname at all. It was his given name. His full name was Mason Milverton. Milverton? Do you mean to say? Saints alive! Mr. Ashley Milverton. Is it not the case that the brickmaker, Mr. Mason Milverton, was your father? No, I don't. As I believe I mentioned earlier, your family history will have been thoroughly checked when you joined the civil service, and it really would take no time at all for the court to subpoena those records. The truth is that you've been illegally acquiring highly confidential government information and selling it on to Begilded in collaboration with your father. Go. The Sulkins have seriously grown on me in all this. The new facts and evidence unveiled by the cross-examination of this witness all come together and to reveal the truth. The truth, you say? That you collaborated with your father, Mr. Mason Milverton, in illegal dealings with Magnus Begilded. By dint of this music box, you mean, counsel? Yes, stealing information being sent in the secret communications and selling it on to Begilded. Mr. Graydon concocted this elaborate scheme of using 2 music box discs to encode the information, as presumably a safety measure against the information falling into the wrong hands. And a very effective one. I shouldn't have given the scheme any credence whatsoever. The deal with Begilded went sour, and the brickmaker met his end. Yes, before he was arrested, Begilded managed to temporarily dispose of the stolen disc at the pawnbroker. Then, having learned of the situation, you appeared at Windibank's 2 days ago, in an attempt to recover the 2 articles Begilded had placed in pawn there. But that attempt failed. One of the discs was seized by the police, and the other you never found. So that same night, you enlisted the help of the Sulkin brothers and broke into the pawnbrokery. This time, determined to recover the second disc. Are you suggesting that the second disc was inside the music box? Yeah? Well, we never knew nothing about that. The night that Mr. Windibank was killed, the music box was disturbed. The intruder to the pawnbrokery touched one item, and one item alone, the music box. It was rather ingenious to demonstrate using the 2 prints for the security camera, indeed. So the question that naturally begs answering is this: why was only that one article disturbed? The answer is obvious, because it contained the second disc, which the intruder was desperate to retrieve. Since if it were to fall into the hands of the police, it would be proof of high treason. Well, Mr. Graydon, do you deny that all this actually began on that fateful night, 2 months ago? I refuse to accept any of this nonsense. Sir, there appears to be blood seeping through the sleeve of your jacket. Uh-oh. What? Ah. 2 nights ago, I know that 3 shots were fired at the scene of the crime in Winterbank's pawnbrokery. Just like the Sulkins warned. One took the life of the pawnbroker himself. One struck the pouch around Mr. Sholmes' waist. And the final bullet struck the calendar on the wall of the shop, having first pierced the arm of one of the intruders. Mr. Graydon, that wound on your arm that you seem to be trying to hide, it's a bullet wound, isn't it?
He's got you now, the old China. Time to call it quits and croak, I reckon.
Don't acknowledge my presence there under any circumstances whatsoever. Those are my terms, remember? And I paid you handsomely to comply. Clearly I was a fool to think I could trust some common backslum thieves. Fine, I admit it. I was there at Winterbank's that night. I paid this pair 10 guineas to accompany me. As you've noticed, I sustained an injury in the course of my adventures. Wow, he admitted it. But that is all. I admit to nothing more. What's a start? Stealing government secrets? Negotiating with Mr. McGill did. Wiggle? As God is my witness, I'm sure I recall nothing of the sort. It's not going to go down without a fight. Not until I can show hard evidence, I suppose. Nevertheless, the defense has now established a crucial fact. Which is... well, we know that 1 bullet was fired from each of the 2 firearms we have in evidence. A bullet from the Sulkin brothers' gun hit the pouch around Mr. Sholmes' waist. A bullet from Mr. Winterbank's gun clearly must have been the one that caught Mr. Graydon on the arm. Indeed it must. You'd rule out the possibility that the man shot himself. That leads us to only one conclusion. Mr. Winterbank was shot by a 3rd gun. It should only have been fired by the 3rd intruder. Oh, goodness! That's right, Mr. Graydon. Uh-oh. Ugh. The only person who could possibly have shot Mr. Winterbank that night is you!
Hold it!
You little upstart! You made a grave mistake when you summoned me here. What? What's that supposed to mean? Yes, as you rightfully say, I was there at the pawnbroker's. Did my best to hide the fact, naturally. I had no intention of ruining the distinguished career I'd built for myself at the communication station. But did the thought never cross your mind? Did you never consider the possibility? What do you mean? What thought? What possibility? Possibility that if I was there at the scene, I may have witnessed the crucial moment. You see... This makes me a key witness in this case, and I have my hands firmly around the neck of your client. What? Are you suggesting? I saw it all. I saw the very moment that pickpocket girl pointed the gun at that poor defenseless pawnbroker and shot him. You what? Well, this escalated quickly. Order! 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 Well, it would seem we are finally entering the last act of this theatrical trial. Mr. Graydon. Yes? I trust you are fully aware of the implications here. If it is shown that your claim is false, you will have incriminated yourself as the killer. Oh boy. Oh, I understand fully. I must ask you to give your formal testimony once more. You will explain to the court precisely what you saw at the moment the defendant allegedly shot the victim. Nothing would give me greater pleasure. Oh boy. Now it feels like we're getting into final boss territory here. While these ruffians were jostling with the broker, I was still near the entrance to the shop. Winterbank threw Nash over the counter. I felt a sharp pain in my arm. I pursued the man, but he shut himself in the storeroom. I could see him through the peephole in the door, though. The accused in a black coat shot the man in the back as he was trying to flee for safety. I saw the blood splatter all over that wretched girl. And she tossed the gun out of the peephole, so I picked it up and made my escape. What? Is that you trying to work in what you just heard about a third gun? Good gracious! This is quite extraordinary testimony. That smug, slight smile. You claim, sir, under oath, to have clearly seen the defendant pulling the trigger. Order, order, order! It wasn't my intention to testify this way. But neither is it my intention to be found guilty of a murder I didn't commit. So you see, my hand has been forced. I tell the truth now as an act of self-preservation. The truth? Until now, the prosecution was completely unaware of these details. Yes, well, sorry about that. Having shot me in the arm, a pawnbroker was then shot in the back by the accused. And as I said, she was showered in his blood. You see the blood spattered over the accused's coat. Are you sure at that point? Oh yes, quite sure. All over the black overcoat that pickpocket girl was wearing at the time. Really? If her coat could somehow be shown to harbor vestiges of blood, there would be conclusive evidence here. Such an investigation is entirely possible, my lord. What? Only very recently, a German scientist has developed a technique to identify human blood. So here's to true science, not some amateurish detective's dubious foray into the world of chemistry. There's nothing dubious about Hurley's work. His ideas are all sound. Ideas are of no use to us here. In science, as in law, theories must be proven before they stand. In Germany, the technique has already been employed in the courtroom as the basis of evidence. Scotland Yard has a small quantity of these chemical reagents used. With your lordship's permission. Oh, Chalice. You could shatter all vestiges of doubt within minutes. Doesn't look good, Runo. Why not? We know that Gina's overcoat has blood on it. Because it was, Gilda's coat that had Thrice-Fired Mason's blood on it. But we know, don't we, that there's blood all over the front of Ginny's coat. If they test it with their chemicals... Oh, help! You're right! I was forgetting what happened yesterday. Don't move, Ginny. I'm going to shoot. Bop. That's not Mr. Winterbank's blood. That stain is from 2 months ago. That's Mr. Mason's blood from when he was stabbed by Mr. McGilded, who was wearing the coat at the time. My lord, the defense objects to the test proposed by the prosecution. Overruled. Lord Van Zieks, make it so at once. With pleasure, my lord. While we await the results, the defense may proceed with a cross-examination. Once they find that blood on the overcoat, Gina will be... Counsel? Yes, my lord. Your cross-examination. Of course, my lord. This cross-examination doesn't go well. I don't manage to uncover some decisive evidence or a really compelling clue now. I have a very bad feeling about the outcome of this trial. This could go very south very quickly. Even now, after all this, after all we've been through and all we've revealed, it could still go very wrong. Mr. Winterbank emerged from the storeroom, I believe. Ringo and Nash were scouring the counter when he suddenly appeared and flew at them. He already had the revolver in his hand. Fortunately, I wasn't too close.
I've never been so scared in all my life. Yeah, we're just your regular mild-mannered burglars. That's all. We don't like violence.
Says the pair who carry a gun. What do you mean when you say you were near the entrance to the shop? I was in the doorway, running my eyes over the shelves of forfeited items. Looking for the music box, of course. The broker went for Nash in the first place. Then Ringo joined in, making it 2 against 1. So I assumed they could handle the situation. But I was wrong.
I was trying to help me little bruv. The old geezer chucked me over the bloomin' counter. I pulled me gun at the old fella. That soon made him scarper.
A pair of you setting upon the poor defenseless pawnbroker together? Shame on you!
Sorry, Gov.
Hold it!
You mean that's the moment you were shot? Yes. Though I didn't immediately realize what had happened, of course. Things crashed to the floor from the counter as the 3 men were brawling. It's not exactly that moment that it happened, so I didn't hear the gunshot. The bullet went on to strike the calendar in the wall behind you. So it would appear. When I looked at my arm, I saw it was bleeding badly, so I wrapped my handkerchief around it. Seeing as I couldn't explain what happened to a doctor, I had no choice but to wait for it to heal. I didn't imagine it would just still be bleeding 2 days later. Did Mr. Winterbeck intend to shoot you, do you think? Well now, I don't imagine he even noticed I was there, to be honest. Perhaps the gun went off accidentally. Anyway, it didn't quite strike home.
I pulled me gun on him. He tried to shove me out of the way. Then he scarpered through that door at the back.
At which point, what did you do? Pursuit man.
Hold it!
You mean you chased after him? I don't recall the reason why, but I ran after him to the back of the shop. What about this people in the door you mentioned?
Well, unsurprisingly, the storeroom's door is a solid job. Made of stout wood. There's a small opening in it about head height. Let's see what's what. Let you see what's what in there from the outside.
Actually, I should know that, shouldn't I? I looked through it myself that night. Yeah. What about your burgling brothers? Did you see what went on through this peephole as well?
We're not likely, Gov. Didn't see nothing of the sort, Gov.
I doubt these 2 buffoons were even aware of the peephole's existence. The Sulkin brothers were there, but they didn't see the killing of Mr. Winterbank take place. Inside the storeroom, I could see the broker and that young girl standing there. The defendant. Yes, though neither of them noticed that I was looking. The girl raised her gun and pointed it straight at the man. And then, what did you see next? Yes, when the crime was discovered, the defendant was found with a gun in her hand. That was Mr. Windibank's gun, for which only a single bullet had been fired. As we've already established, Mr. Graydon, that bullet was fired at you. Ah, but no, it wasn't the broker's gun that the pickpocket girl had when I saw her. Yes, the bullet from Mr. Windibank's gun grazed my arm, and yes, the Sulkins gun grounded the detective. This was another gun entirely. A third gun. The broker's gun was not the murder weapon, so clearly there had to be a third firearm involved. In other words, the accused must have had her own gun with her at the time.
Objection!
But no other gun was found at the scene. I mean, this is literally what we were arguing in the past. This is just, This is what we were arguing at one point in time. The difference is, now it's being used against us to incriminate Gina. Calm yourself, counsel. Sorry? You must consider the events in order. First I saw the broker and the girl glaring at each other. Then all of a sudden, the broker turned to run. It was at that moment, we wailed. The little gutter rat shot her in the back. A chilling image, I must say.
Hold it!
All over her? Yes, through the peephole I saw it clearly. Of course, the stains are invisible now, what with the coat being such a dark color. But I assure you, that garment is sullied with the victim's blood. Oh, it is sullied with blood, that's for sure. It's not Mr. Windibank's blood, is it? No, that's right, it's Mr. Mason Milverton's blood from when McGill had stabbed him 2 months ago. It's so annoying. If they'd only accept Hurley's chemical analysis, we could prove that. But they won't. So unfortunately, we can't use it as evidence to support our case. Bother. Did I hear you correctly? She threw the gun out of the room? That's right. After the broker fell to the floor, she started walking over. Over where, exactly? In the direction of the storeroom door, to where I was watching. Of course, I quickly retreated. And then, the girl dropped the gun through the peephole on the door, onto the floor from my side of the door. But why on earth would she do such a thing? I couldn't tell you. Perhaps she was hoping to distance herself from the murder weapon. Without thinking, I went and picked it up. I suppose I was worried about just leaving it there, in case any more tragedies took place. So it was you, in fact, who took the third gun from the scene of the crime. Yes, it was yours truly. I left the clear up to my lackeys and left. Clear up?
We made a bit of a mess around the counter, so Mr. Whistling Flute here told us to tidy up. He thinks he's our bloomin' mom sometimes.
What if I was paying you enough, by God? Now tell me, Mr. Graydon, when you left the pawnbrokery that night, was it by any chance with the second disc in your jacket pocket? You're like a bullet at a gate, aren't you? Oh, God. Yeah. We're just gonna watch this for a bit.
Excuse me.
Gentlemen, what the fuck? right there.
Something wrong, Sunshine?
That should be my line. You do realize you were just violently shaking Mr. Skulkin.
Blimey, this dude's a bit of an hooligan, ain't he?
What was going on just now?
You saw him. He grabbed me whistle. Why the blazes, he said. Didn't you mention the third gun when we got you down to the station?
And why didn't you?
Because we didn't know nothing about it. Or that flaming people in the door.
Sorry about that. I can be prone to losing my rags sometimes. Not hurt, are ya?
You're blind. See the way he's looking at me. Yeah, I'm telling you, this D gives me the willies.
That was strange. The inspector doesn't normally get quite as worked up as that. He wouldn't normally grab someone. No, that wasn't like Gregsy at all. He's really been off his kilter this case. He's normally all sweetness and light, no matter what I say to him. Yes, well, I think you might be a special case, Iris. Well, anyway, that was definitely out of character.
My lord. Requesting your lordship's permission to interrupt the cross-examination.
Explain yourself, officer.
I have the results of the test that was ordered earlier, my lord.
Ah, the blood on the accused's overcoat. Thank you, officer. Very well. This examination is hereby temporarily suspended. I presume you have no objections, counsel? No, my lord. Well, there you have it. The report, please, Inspector.
Yes, sir. Traces of human blood were found on the overcoat of the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade.
On the extent of the stains, it would appear that they were the result of spattering following a gunshot wound. End of report. Goodness me! Oh, Skulkins are gone? See? What did I tell you?
Objection!
No, the blood on the coat is not Mr. Winterbank's. What on earth makes you say that, counsel? The coat originally belonged to Magnus McGilded. Just before his coat was deposited at Winterbank's, McGilded had fatally stabbed Mr. Mason Milverton. The blood on that overcoat was the blood of the brickmaker from the omnibus case.
Objection!
Well, the dead cannot speak. Isn't that right, my Nepalese friend? Sorry? 2 months ago, in this very courtroom, did you not argue fervently for Mr. McGilded's innocence? And yet, now that the man is dead, you brand him as a murderer. Your conduct shatters any shred of respect you may have earned for yourself in this country. But that was...
I call it a bully disgrace. Treachery, that's what it is.
I have to determine whether the blood on that coat is 2 months old or not. Even a stereoscope couldn't help the answer to that problem pop out. It can't be done. At least you're considering the problem, juror number 3. But we used Mr. Sholmes' specially formulated chemicals.
Mr. Sholmes is a detective, not a chemist.
Would you put such faith in a chemical formula devised by me? For example, when I'm a communications officer? I held that Piroshki to starving boy, and he ran away crying. What does that have to do with anything? Sherlock Sholmes is barely more than a figment of the public's imagination. His name carries no weight in this courtroom. No weight at all. How could you say that? Victory is sweet indeed. This proves that my testimony is the whole truth from start to finish. How do you arrive at such a conclusion, sir? As the witness said, the accused's coat was spattered with the blood of the victim. The only way Mr. Graydon could possibly have known that fact is if he saw it happen. In other words, his testimony is solid. The conclusion is singular. It was the accused who shot the victim in this case. That is the whole truth. I want to see that report in the court record, please. Ah! I want to see that report for myself.
My lord. Been a long battle, this one, but this old warhorse has something to say now, if you please.
Uh-oh. Mr. Foreman?
As of this moment, sir, the squadron has reached its final decision. Ready, men. All for one now. Sir.
Guilty.
Guilty.
Guilty. Guilty.
Guilty.
Guilty.
Well. GG, gang. Well, it would appear the ladies and gentlemen of the jury have reached a unanimous verdict. The defense has consistently failed to unpick this witness's testimony. Here's to any attempt you may make at unpicking the jurors' decisions being equally successful. Ah! Believe it. But I've come so far. How's it all unraveling on me so fast? I still want to see that report, Regsy. How very distressing to be held in such low esteem. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Naruhodo? Officer? Deliver the report now. That will be all. Thank you. It occurs to me with some regularity, Mr. Naruhodo. That scientific truths are determined not by science, but by none other than the human mind. I know that voice. Am I going mad? Ah! Oh, hello.
Mr. Sholmes! What? What is the meaning of this?
That pose.
Order! Order! Order!
What business do you have here, detective? Last I heard you were recuperating in the hospital. As well I would be, had I not been set upon an errand. What errand?
Hurley, it's really you! You're awake at last!
Yes, good day, Ibis. I appear to be rather late to rise. My apologies. Now, my lord, if you will humor me. Nice mustache.
In what manner, sir?
I have something of great importance I wish to give to the young lawyer over there. I need no more than 5 minutes. Would you be so kind as to spare us the time? What say you to this, Lord Van Zeeks? This trial has taken many hours of the court's time, having spent so long already.
Exactly. Having spent so long already, we don't want to go wasting any more precious time.
As I was saying, having spent so long already, it would seem churlish to deny the defense a mere 5 minutes.
Ah!
Very well then. Counsel, you have 5 minutes. Alright, what do you got for us? My dear fellow, I apologize for my tardy arrival.
Mr. Sholmes, are you alright now?
Alright, I'm all wrong. I'm in agonizing pain, Mr. Naruhodo.
Sorry?
I've only just managed to summon the strength to stand, man. I have to judge 5 minutes. But I fear even that may prove too much for me. Pray forgive me should I pass out. Let's make this discussion as short as possible. Hurley, this place is full of idiots. None of them can see how wonderful your chemical blood analysis is. Oh well. That concoction of mine was really just a bit of sport to assist me in my investigations. Never took the trouble to refine it for appraisal by the scientific community. An oversight on my part. Right. Modesty? Surely not. But enough of that. I'm here to give you this, my dear fellow. Oh, what's that? A lavender furoshiki wrapping? A leaving present from Miss Suzato. From Miss Suzato? If possible, matters were to be settled. Matters were to be settled without me giving you this. Those were her instructions when she asked me to do her this favor. I don't understand. Miss Suzato foresaw today's events, I believe. He knew that the culprit would attempt to escape justice by means both devious and underhanded, and that you, Mr. Naruhodo, fighting fairly as you are wont to do, would find yourself in considerable peril. At that very moment of crisis, you would be given this small parcel. Those were the dear lady's instructions. Oh, this music. A leaving present from Susato-san. Whatever could it be? What is this? Oh! It's the machine I made. Huh. Meow. Hi, Wagahai. Look, I used this. It's my latest invention. What is that? I call it the cat flapper-mat. You can make a cat flap for a little furry friend like Wacky in seconds. Oh. What's Susie up to? Susato muttered the following words before she left. I'm a failure. I don't deserve to be a judicial assistant. What? Didn't you say something like that? You really are the best judicial assistant in the world. Well, that's extremely flattering. But I'm sorry to say that I've been a complete failure. Whatever did she mean by that, Mr. Sholmes? That night, when you left Windibanks in pursuit of the thieves, Miss Susato made use of this contraption for a certain purpose. That is your answer, dear fellow. Not at all cryptic, then. Susato-san used this cat flapper-mat that night. But why? Unexpected twist. Your 5 minutes are over. We're out of time already. I'm grateful to you for affording us that brief recess, Mr. Reaper. I need no thanks, Detective. After all, the die is cast. Is it really? The jurors are unanimous in their leanings. No doubt my learned friend will consider a summation examination. But any attempt to alter the verdict now would be utterly futile. I wonder... Mr. Naruhodo. Yes? The rest is down to you, dear fellow. What is your plan? The rest is down to me. I need to be careful here. If I make a wrong move, the trial will end badly. My lord, the defense requests... Time to think. Defense requests to save the game and decide next time on the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Until then... The defense requests that you have a good day.